welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Yes, today I have my makeup done and my hair, but I am in my cozy jumper because it is fucking freezing. And yeah, I just want to be comfy and cozy. So, after the last few episodes, things have probably felt pretty heavy on the podcast, to be honest, and I don't want to apologise about that because I feel like these things are things that should be covered, and I have also been working on a podcast episode that is about different types of abuse and how they can have impacts on physical and mental health. However, after talking about the Mental Health Act, detention, advocacy, things like that, I kind of just wanted to have a bit of an episode where I just look at some tea on Reddit, to be honest, and just be a bit more down to earth than normal and not have like my nurse's hat on and be explaining things. So over the last week or so, I have been favouriting and saving some Reddit posts where I have saw the caption and thought, that could be good tea. So let's go have a look at what I've got on Reddit and what stories I'm going to pick for today. I am literally just doing this off the bat, going to record my screen and see what happens. Hopefully there is some juicy tea. So yeah, settle in, enjoy, grab some snacks, grab some water, hydrate yourselves, and we will get into this episode of me reading some possibly slightly unhinged stories on Reddit, but never know, maybe they're going to be boring, but it's not exactly good to put that at the start of an episode because then why are you going to watch it? So I guess they sometimes maybe shit, sometimes maybe good. That is a meme. It's a football manager. I'm gonna have to try and find it to put it in because in my head I'm like, that just sounds like I'm taking the piss out of somebody, but I'm not. I'm just vocally stimming.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
So yeah, grab some water, grab some snacks, and let's see what is on Reddit and what my opinions are on these stories. Ooh, mama! The only issue with this is I now need to find where my saved posts are, and I can't quite see them on Reddit, so I'm having a bit of a moment. Aha, found it. Wow, okay, I did not expect that to be the first one I'd favourited. So I clearly saw this and thought, damn. So this is on r/Aspergers, and I actually don't follow this subreddit. However, it must have been like a notification that came up, which Reddit does sometimes, and it'll show you like what is hot on some different subreddit that you don't follow. So the reason why I had that facial expression is the title of this Reddit post is "My 7-year-old nephew kicked my 9-month-old baby. What is the appropriate reaction?" I am visiting my parents with my baby daughter, and all of the kids were playing on the floor. At one point, my baby daughter grabbed my nephew's paper cat cutout, pulled the tail so it came off. I was already taking it away from her, but my nephew, who has Aspergers, was faster. He grabbed it out of her hands and kicked her. She started crying. I shouted at him and left the room. What would be the right way of handling this situation? My brother believes these situations can't be prevented in the future. Is he right? The title is like, oof, shock, but I can get it, especially in young kids when there is Asperger's, autism. Asperger's is currently no longer actually a diagnosis in the DSM-5. However, I know a lot of people who still use the term Asperger's as it is something that they have identified with themselves for a whole number of years. And I can understand in like emotional regulation, being upset that somebody has ruined something that you were doing, but is the reaction anger and violence? And I don't really know what the best reaction would be in this circumstance, to be honest, because I don't have kids and I don't really like. I feel like it is a very specific experience of when you have kids and these things happen. How do you then make sure that your daughter doesn't come to harm, but also accepting of the fact that your family members have diagnosed neurodivergence? So let's see what some comments are. And the first comment, kind of, I am prefacing this with the fact that I am not an expert at all and not a parent, but I did grow up on the spectrum. It very much needs to be firmly but calmly explained that this is not an appropriate way for your nephew to respond to something that he is upset about, and what he did could have seriously hurt the baby. Give him options of the correct thing to do, which in this case would be likely to leave the situation or room to cool off if he is upset, and not direct his anger physically at another person. I feel like that is such a good way of putting it, of what I was trying to put in, of understanding there is emotional dysregulation there, but having conversations of this behaviour isn't okay, and the other ways that you can deal with this big emotion that you are feeling is to XYZ, put your ear defenders on, go into your room and have a scream. I know like parents who have neurodivergent kids, whether that is autism or ADHD, sometimes they will have a safe space in their room or in the house where they can go and like rage out and they're not going to come to any harm or harm like their siblings or their parents. However, I'm not finished reading this comment, but I felt like that kind of summed up what I was trying to say without actually being like, oh, yeah, that's what I meant. It can also be explained to him that the baby did not mean to do anything to upset him and isn't old enough to know slash understand that the cat cutout was important to him. It seems helpful to hear to explain that the baby did not intend to wrong your nephew, as it is easy for those of us on the spectrum to take perceived wrongs against us as personal or intentional when they aren't. Offering to help him tape or glue the tail back on may also help to remedy some upset about it being ripped. Also, this is absolutely preventable with the right approach, and I'm kind of appalled that your brother is making excuses for your baby literally being physically attacked by his kid, Asperger's or not. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. The comment below is, my grandparents used to say, imagine a giant came over and kicked you, how would you feel? That's dangerous. I think sometimes when it comes to having kids on the spectrum, it is very important to try and help them visualize what they are doing wrong and how they would feel if it happened to them, because then there's more of an understanding on why you don't do these things. And I think there is a big understanding um socially in neurotypical people that neurodivergence is just because autistic or ADHD people don't understand that there are rules socially of how things work. And in my experience, it's not that I don't understand the rules that are there, I just don't understand why they're there. Like, I get that I need to do certain things to come across as nice and like easily approachable, but sometimes I don't understand why I'm doing it, and I feel like that's why for so long I felt like an alien in my own body, because I was trying to act and mask all of these things that I didn't actually understand why I was doing them. And I think something that very much works in my head is I treat people how I want to be treated. However, I also know with that people don't have the same heart as me. People don't have the same experiences, and therefore they will show love, affection, and care in different ways. And one of those ways should never be physical violence. There should always be a way where, even if you're neurodivergent or neurotypical, that your parent is helping you to understand the emotions that are coming up and how to deal with them in a safe and effective way. Because if you think, I'm not sure if this is US, UK, but at 7 years old in the UK, you're already at school, and if you are having this reaction with a 9-month-old baby, you could potentially, like, your son could potentially get into fights and arguments at school because you've not properly taught them what these emotions are, why they are coming up, and how to deal with them. And I feel like that should be a universal thing for parents and not just kids with ADHD, autism. OCD also kind of falls under neurodivergence, even though it is a mental health condition. Um, because I definitely know that I didn't get the right teaching about emotions and how to handle things, and I thought a lot of behaviour was okay and it wasn't, and it meant that when I didn't know any better, I unintentionally hurt people because I didn't know what was going on in myself, because I never really had that voice that says, yeah, this is the emotion you're feeling. Like, here are things you can do to help it. I had to figure that out on my own, and that's fucking scary sometimes. But anyway, this is the only story I think that I have from r/Aspergers, and it was the first one that I came up. I didn't even see the subreddit when I was like, oh, that title. But yes, the other stories tend to be from like relationship advice. Am I the asshole? Am I the devil? I had kind of thought of a little idea of how to see if things and stories that I'm seeing are realistic, in the sense of like, how do I put it? Like, a lot of times on Reddit, you see stories and you're like, have I seen that before? Has that been on here before? And I kind of um tried to make a little validity scale. However, do you know what? I'm going to start doing that in my next Reddit video, because today is just a day where I'm looking at the tea and I'm reading it, and I'm going to do like 2 more stories, even if it is a shorter episode again, because my back is fucking killing me. So, the next saved one I have is from the best of Redditor updates, which makes me think that this is going to be juicy and there will be updates. So, the title of this story is Friend's Father Tried to Light Her Wedding Venue on Fire, Boy Scout style, after realising that she was for real about marrying a woman. Oof. Oh my god, it was initially posted to Charlotte Dobre's YouTube. That's wild. I love Charlotte Dobre. She does like some fucking great reactions. But trigger warning: bigotry, attempted arson, mental health issues, and abuse. So this is going to be a whoo. Originally posted just over a month ago. To start, I'd like to say that I would ordinarily never make a post about people I know, but because I'm petty and the friend in question has given me the vague go-ahead for an anonymous post, I figured it's only right that it gets posted here. So you could probably call this FILFH. Father-in-law from hell. Wow, I'm so amazed that I managed to work that out. But, well, I honestly don't think anyone is claiming him as their father. This happened about a year ago now. To set the scene, my dear friend, we'll call her Alice, 24, was getting married to her 23-year-old girlfriend of 4 years, who we will call Jenny. From what I know, Alice and Jenny met when they were 15 on their high school cheerleading team and did not get along. I mean, actual screaming matches in the parking lot type beat. I'm talking lawn chairs and popcorn were out when they got into it. Like, yes, please. Skip to a remarkable, earth-shattering junior year, and Jenny's prom date just kissed Alice at the prom. When Alice, who is staunchly anti-cheaters and may or not be plotting satanic rituals to perform upon such people as her mum was routinely accused of cheating despite no proof coming forth, found out the guy was cheating, she and Jenny had a come to Jesus kumbaya where they proceeded to bond over messaging his parents and the entire basketball team in an act of slut shaming him. Well, I don't quite know about the satanic rituals, but being anti-cheater because your mum gets accused of cheating and not having evidence, I could definitely see why you don't like that shit. Now, for the relevant come to, during this time, Alice and Jenny started staying over at each other's houses. It should be noticed that Jenny and Alice are both very feminine, and Jenny is black. I wish it wasn't relevant, but it is a little relevant. Oh no. Well, there was a trigger warning for bigotry, wasn't there? Jenny met Alice's parents. I do want to say that I personally met Alice's parents during our collective freshman year of college, which is when I met Alice and Jenny. Her mum is a saint and I absolutely adore her. Should she have ever read this, which she almost definitely won't, then I would actually literally biblically take a bullet for you, Mrs. J. Her dad, M48, we'll call him Chad. I wonder why, is a bit of a red pill podcast listening loser. I fell asleep the other night listening to the other day when I had a very long nap. I fell asleep listening to the Mr. Beast Responds like 2-hour Oompa video, and I fell asleep like halfway through it, and when I woke up there was like this podcast with 4 guys just talking about shagging and stuff like that, and I'm like, this has like 20 views and I don't watch this type of content. Why is this playing when it's waking up? I felt like I was in a fucking nightmare. Anyway, back to the story. Red Pill podcast listening loser just triggered that memory in my brain. And that's if I'm being charitable. He is weirdly homophobic, transphobic and misogynistic, while also ranting the ear off anyone who will listen to how he is a saviour of these people. I don't have all of the details what happened to make Jenny hate him, but I do know it is something to do with him repeatedly referring to her as the black chick despite knowing her name. Fuck that. I've had my wheelchair back flicked down because it squeaks when I'm recording, but fuck me, my back is too sore to not have it up. Let's get a bit closer. Get all the squeaks out. Cut to college. I've just met Alice and Jenny, love them dearly, and have the misfortune of meeting Chad in the flesh. It should be noted that Alice came out when she was 17, and Jenny's family is very supportive and has a few other queer family members within the unit. Despite Alice coming out as gay, her dad, and I have seen the text, I shit you not, said that it's normal for everybody to have sexual feelings for the same gender. Don't worry about it and find a man to get good enough where you forget about it. Chad, is that admitting that you might be gay? That you've had sexual attraction to another man and you've just got your wife so that you can fuck her and try to pretend that you're not gay? No wonder you're such a fucking horrible person if that's the case. Jesus Christ. Anyway, that's just an assumption, but if somebody says that... what is the quote? It's like the American woman, Denial is a river in Egypt. Your husband is gay. That's exactly what's going through my head right now. I wish I was joking, but he did send that text to his daughter. But it was at that time I heard Alice and Jenny had just gotten together and I was happy for them. So Alice blocked Chad for a bit and all was well until the wedding. I know that Chad knows Alice and Jenny are together. I know that Chad knows that Alice and Jenny got engaged. I was at the engagement party where he was present, but apparently even reality can't stop Chad. It'd be iconic if only boldness wasn't wasted on this wretched... What? It'd be iconic if only boldness wasn't wasted on the wretched. I don't know what that means, but anyway, carrying on. Chad also has a history of smoking no matter the location and pretending not to see the no smoking signs. Still, Chad called Alice during a girls' night absolutely pissed that she was taking this joke far. Taking the joke this far. And had to stop living with Jenny or a man would get the wrong idea. Ooh, bro, fuck off. He started saying something about her biological clock and having his DNA when Alice very firmly cut him off and asked what he was talking about. Apparently, somehow, some way, Chad thought that the wedding invitations was a joke. It was a spin-off of the "and they were roommates" joke. So on the invitation was a glittery pink "and they were wives" that were destined after a few daiquiris. After a back and forth on speakerphone, Alice hung up after telling him that he was an idiot for thinking that she was in a long-standing joke about having a girlfriend for 4 years. How fucking stupid can you be, man? Like, Jesus. You might be wondering where Alice's mum is in all of this. Blissfully uninvolved. If they are still together, I don't know how that woman can be blissfully uninvolved. The best part of Mrs. J and Chad is that it isn't an open secret that she desperately wants a divorce from him, but won't until all of their children together are 18 because she wants to preserve normalcy for the kids. I'm sorry, but that's not being blissfully uninvolved. That's being blissfully ignorant. Preserve normalcy for the kids of having a homophobic, bigotry, transphobic, racist, red pill podcast loser dad. Nah, should have binned them when they were fucking 1, not when they're 18 and out of the house. They've already had to grow... They've already had to grow up with that shit, like, causing me so much anger I'm going to have a coughing fit. Anyway, as of today, they should be getting divorced in about 5 months. Round of applause for Mrs. J. She very seriously makes her stance clear that she loves her children and is thrilled to welcome Jenny as her newest daughter. So we get to the night before the wedding and we are jazzed. I'm going back and forth between suites in this gorgeous venue, passing notes between Jenny and Alice like they're lovesick teenagers. I'm doing the thing, we're giggling and having fun in between both parties, which just consists of our entire combined inner friend group from college, including the he's, she's and theys. We are having the best time until Chad walks into Jenny's suite. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. You heard that right. Jenny, not Alice, his daughter. Oh fuck, I didn't even make that combination that it was the wrong wife. Oh, he was lucky to be invited to the wedding, in my opinion, but this was insane and I only heard half of it. Oof. Supposedly, he knocked on the door and walked into the room when someone opened it to ask what was up, and he started laying into her about how she was a bitch, unclean, and pulled out printed photos of the devil according to the Christian Bible and left. Wow. So they're sitting there after this whirlwind, and the guys are making sure that Chad is left. That's when I walk in, hear the situation, and rush back to Alice to make sure her room wasn't next on his hit list. Get this. Chad isn't religious. I did not see that coming with the fucking devil and biblical stuff. Like, actually, literally, also according to Alice, he had stopped taking his medication a week prior to be more present at her wedding, but that medication is what kept him from hallucinating. Oh, Jesus. Jesus. Ooh. We shook it off the best as possible and took an early night to chill before the wedding. But then we get to the wedding. Oh, I can feel this coming. Jeez, this is only the first part. I feel like there's going to be updates to this and I'm scared. The ceremony, gorgeous. Cocktail hour, stunning. Their first dance, sobbing. We went around giving speeches, celebrating them, and this is when it gets to Chad's turn to give him a speech. Why is anybody giving this guy a microphone to do a speech? Like, yes, he's invited, but this does not need to happen. Oh, jeez. Get this. No one can find him for about 10 minutes. This party in particular is mad suspicious of this, but then Mrs. J sighed with the force of a woman who's been mentally divorced for a decade, got up from her chair, walked over to one of the beautiful wide floor-to-ceiling windows on every wall, and shined her phone flashlight out into the darkness where part of the party was going to take place. The lights were going to be turned on when they walked out after dinner. And there Chad was, in all of his glory, in his suit, trying to wiggle dry sticks together Boy Scout style to set fire to the lawn. Remember how I said he was a prolific smoker? Yep, he had most certainly had a lighter in his pocket, but in the moment had resorted to pulling sticks in a hallucinatory daze. Now, I know you're probably waiting to write his behaviour off on his medication. Don't. This man has been drunk texting his children for years about them being/not being biologically worthy. He has been abusing his wife for years. He is damn lucky anyone is willing to talk to him after he threatened to unalive several people over the years, including his daughters and son. He is not a good person. Yeah. His hallucinations started 3 or so years ago. He has stated that he prefers being angry and bitter because this means he is smarter. Anger equals intelligence in this man's eyes. He waited no more than 13 hours after his wife's father died to tell everyone how much he will always hated him. Her grief was less important than his feelings. Ugh. Like, yeah, abusive piece of shit. And I can get that when you are being abused, it is hard to leave, especially when you had kids. I had my mum say the same thing to me when I finally moved out at 18, that she was just waiting until we moved out until she left the man that she was with. And I have now been living on my own for 8 years, 9 years, 8, and she is still with him, still in the same position, and I can get it because he has total control over her, and she could have left when we were younger and prevented us from all types of abuse, but she didn't. So I'm sorry, as much as I love the mum in this story, I can't back the decision to have normalcy because that's abuse. He has no room for love in his heart, even on his daughter's wedding day. If you couldn't tell, he didn't succeed in setting fire to their venue and was ushered home for a nap. He also didn't succeed in ruining their wedding day. I have more Chad stories from my personal beef with him and a little more on why none of his children talk to him if you'd like to hear them. I'm considered a close family friend of 6 years now, which is why we know a lot of this. We are keeping this anon, so we should be good. Edit. I want to clarify a few things that I did not add. 1. When Chad was outside wiggling sticks together, he was doing so on one of the tables where the rest of the reception was going to take place with more dancing. Since this was an autumn wedding, there were enough dried leaves that he grabbed a handful and put them on the table. He wasn't exactly yelling when he was driven home, but he was talking about how the whole thing should burn, then demanded Mrs. J bring him a slice of wedding cake. To my knowledge, she did not. Thank fuck, that guy does not deserve any cake unless it is getting mashed into his face until he can't breathe, but that's probably a bit dramatic. But they could die young and the old stay living like fucking cockroaches. People like this. 2. Chad was given a speech at the wedding because he promised to let Alice and Jenny proofread it beforehand. Mrs. J was going to proofread it originally, but Chad accused her of trying to tamper with it, so she walked away. Chad was allowed at the wedding at all because he wasn't even the one walking her down the aisle. Alice and Jenny had their mums do that. He didn't have a ton of responsibility, and up until the night before, he had been on a 2 month stretch of being relatively normal. He'd been taking his medication and seemed to be putting the work in to improve their relationship. Then he stopped taking his medication consciously. 3. Whenever Chad is asked about why he tried to light the venue on fire, albeit poorly, he states that never happened. Sometimes he'll joke and say that he was just trying to set up a bonfire for his little girl and to remind them of all when they used to go camping together. Spoiler, he went camping with Alice's younger sister, not Alice. He had always mixed up his children. This isn't new. That is usually a big sign in a father when you can't get your children correct, that you're probably a shit dad. Chad is still in Alice and Jenny's life. He started taking his medication again immediately after the wedding, followed by a text saying that Alice was being unfair for letting her own father leave. He's normal half of the time, but I suspect that when Alice and Jenny start welcoming kidlets into their family, they will go lower or no contact. They currently see him twice a month. Oof. Oof, oof, oof. Relevant comments. I'm glad he didn't ruin their wedding. To answer your question, hell yes, we want to hear more stories. So here is an update from the person who posted this. So something kind of interesting about Chad is he isn't smart, trademarked. Smart abra? Oh, like smart lights? I don't know. In fact, he's so smart that he outthought the military. Huh? Earlier this year, his number one Chad conversation topic was about how he got an email from the top of the Navy telling him that he was right about everything and they wish he was still on active duty so that he could tell the world about how vaccinations are fake and Corona was an inside job. He actually told me about this personally when I asked to see the messages. He explained that it was top secret and considered military insider and he shouldn't even be telling people about it. He then walked over to the next group of people at the 4th of July party and started to tell them about it. Bro, Jesus Christ. Give it a break. What is actually going on in your brain? So there's an update. If you didn't see the original, please give that a skim because it sets stage for what happened at Alice and Jenny's 1 year wedding anniversary party a few days ago, and the tiniest bit of it, and am I the a-hole? Ooh. I'd like to say that I also don't feel bad about this, and I'm more than willing to accept that I'm an a-hole. Good on you, Queen. Let's read and see what you have done to see if you actually are an a-hole, or if Chad is the biggest a-hole and you gave him what he fucking deserved. In the last 2 weeks, my original post had our friend group talking a little bit more about what happened during Alice and Jenny's wedding last year. It should be noted that they were 22/23 when they get married and 23/24 now, but most of our friend group is between 21 and 25. A lot of us are still in our last legs of university or grad school right now. I am not from the States. I am 22 and just starting grad school this past year. Their anniversary party was last Saturday so that everyone could attend, but it's not their actual anniversary date. Both Alice and Jenny have pretty well paying jobs for being relatively fresh out of university, but it's not super surprising since that they had a fantastic internship in college and got hired through these companies. They have a good sized place, not a house because literally who can afford that, and just adopted 2 cats and a retired service dog. I love it. In comes Chad. Oh, Chad. Basically, one of the main issues with Chad and I in particular is that I am not from the States. I still have an accent since English is not my first language, but I am absolutely fluent and you can hardly hear my accent at all, in my opinion. I am also pretty pale, so that's why I'm guessing he didn't realise sooner into our vague acquaintanceship through Alice. I am also the only person in the friend group that was not born in America, but our friend group is very diverse besides that. Oh, this is long, Jesus. After the catastrophe of the wedding, it is a shock that Chad was allowed to come to the party at all. He did, however, seem to get better in the last few months, and Jenny, in particular, was very forgiving. So she pushed an invite to him. This was fine for the most part, since Chad was actually genuinely looking to have gotten a little more normal. I wrote my original post in the mindset of a person who hasn't interacted with Chad in well over 3 months. Supposedly, he switched up his medications and seems to be more normal, and I was actually sort of happy for Alice. As much as I dislike the man, I do want Alice to have this part of our support system. I get it. I get it. Parents are people too. Parents struggle with mental health issues, and getting medicated and finding the right medication is something that can be very difficult. And yes, I can get being happy for a friend having their parents in their life, because I would love to have mine in my life, but I can't. And I don't know, like, I can get it making you happy because you want or to have them there, but is this just more chaos, more pain, more trauma? Let's see, because with the length of this, I can see it being that. Jesus, Jesus. After me doing some short episodes and me being like, I'll do like 3 stories, I'm only on the second one and this is so long. Oh, wow. Okay, so where was I? No, read that bit already. But then we get to the party. Chad was super respectful and thankful about the invitation to the party up until a week before, when he asked out of the blue, is Cheerios coming? Alice replied that yes, of course I'm going, and I made them a cake. Radio silence until the day of the party, where Chad sent a text message saying he was on the way. Chad walks in, and who does he see? Oh yeah, me. I was by the door. I was by the door chatting with a friend when Chad walks in, looks at me, and just says, "You motherfucker." Oh, why are you so salty? I know Chad isn't my biggest fan, but I was a little taken aback considering this is the first time Chad has talked to me since the 4th of July party. I tried to make a joke with finger guns and say, "You motherfucker," right back to him, but he didn't think it was very funny. Instead, he decided to tell me how immigrants are going to hell. Like, bro, hello to you too. Has this guy stopped taking his meds yet, or is that the kind of shit that he still comes out with when he's on medication and his family are that used to it that it just gets swept under the carpet? Well, he told me that he didn't want to see me for the rest of the party and that I should leave and never come back, or avoid him for the rest of our lives. Bro, you're not that important. I did tell Alice and Jenny about this the other day, but they didn't hear a word about this exchange for the rest of the night, and you might be wondering why. The fun thing about this party was that there was many planned games. Planned partner games, even when you would choose your partner. Charades, Cards Against Humanity, blind drawing, Pictionary, a scavenger hunt, and a fun murder mystery to round the night off. This sounds like such a fun party, and I'm just so disappointed that our dad's there because I feel like he's going to fucking ruin all of it. Whew. All two-person adjusted partnership games that Alice and Jenny had planned so that everybody could have fun whether or not they were drinking. If you hadn't guessed what I did just yet, I want you to imagine what I could have done with this information, this conversation, and the knowledge that literally no one there wanted to be Chad's babysitter for the night. Girl, are you telling me that you took the pain on of being this man's fucking partner for all these games? Please tell me you fucked him over, because if that's what makes you an asshole and you made him lose all the games and angry, then he fucking deserves it. Every single time it was called for people to find a partner, I latched on like a tapeworm, a leech, even a glued down magnet on metal. Every time Chad tried to find a new partner or sit out, I was there. There was one point where I literally jumped over the side of the couch just to keep him from partnering with Alice so that she could enjoy her anniversary. That's a fucking good friend. Because I could tell that he was going to say something about me to her that she would have gotten upset about it. Then Jenny would have been upset, then Chad would have yelled, so I just cut out the middleman. Every time he tried to make a comment about me, I'd talk loud and proud right over him. He'd try to pull out a cigarette and smoke indoors. I'd snatch it out of his hand, thank him for the offer, and stuff it in my pocket. He'd try to run off, I'd offer to grab his buddy's drinks mid-game. He'd try to complain to someone, I'd loudly laugh and say, "Wow, what a funny joke, Chad." Right, Chad, wasn't that a joke? At Alice's anniversary party. Jesus Christ. At any point, if he walked away, I was right on his heels, telling him all about where I live before moving to the States. Girl, I don't think you are an arsehole in this situation. Jesus Christ. I think you're more of a hero for, like, making sure the anniversary party went semi-well at this point. Eventually, I think I broke part of his nasty, no good spirit because at the end of the night, he was nearly falling asleep on the couch before he was ushered into a car. If you're wondering, I only grabbed him mocktails. The guy couldn't even use alcohol as an escape. I was also absolutely exhausted, but the only thing he managed to say to Alice was a tired congratulations and a complaint about the booze, so she was pretty happy. Jenny was also thrilled that her father-in-law didn't manage any racist remarks to her. To be perfectly honest, I was kind of miserable the whole night, but that's what friends are for. That's what people pleasing's for. Like, friends are there to say, don't invite your dad because then one of us is going to have to babysit him all night, or he's going to be racist towards your wife of a year and ruin your anniversary party. Just food for thought, really. If it were me, I had got contact, no sweat off my back, but it's not my relationship, and thankfully, that's not my father. It's not my decision to make, but I do feel a little vindicated in knowing that I made Chad's night his worst nightmare. Fair enough. Mrs. J also had a good time as far as I know, but part of my mission was also letting her have a night off from being Chad's babysitter, so I avoided her at all costs. Anywho, I made myself the sacrificial lamb last week. It's definitely at least a little bit of an a-hole, but I think I could make a business out of being the ultimate father-in-law distractor. To be honest, I don't think what you did there was being an a-hole unless it was to yourself, because you ran yourself into the ground to distract one of your best friend's fathers from ruining their anniversary party, and instead of being racist towards the girlfriend or the wife, he was wanting to be racist towards you. And, like, yeah, fair play. You probably handled it in the best way possible, but then seeing in this, I'm like, you handled it in the best way possible, but then that's socially seen as you being an arsehole for doing that, but he didn't even deserve to be there in the first place. So, making it a worse night, yeah, fair enough. Also, because I have a feeling someone will say it, Chad is no more fond of me than he was before. I expect that he'll try even harder to avoid me next time. Edit. For those of you asking, Mrs. J's reaction I can deliver. So this happened last Saturday, but I only got to meet up back with Alice and Jenny on Wednesday this week. I was meeting them at my apartment for our Wednesday movie extravaganza that we've been doing since sophomore year of university, and of course, we were chatting about the engagement party. Now, something about me is that I can't keep my mouth shut to save my life, okay? Same. I'm a professional yapper of anything that I haven't been explicitly told not to share. Same. I am a secret keeper until death, but everything else is fair game unless there is a clear indication that it shouldn't be shared around. Embarrassing, excessively personal, etc. I say that to a lot of people. People tell me things and I'm like, you do know I'm going to share this with Eleanor, right? Like, I need to tell somebody. And then when Eleanor shares big things with me, I'm like, holy fuck, who am I meant to go to about this? But like, uh, yapping about things is what I do. And a lot of the times, if somebody tells me it's a secret, then my brain will just paper shred that, and most of the time, I probably won't even remember what it is. So, like she said there, secret keeper till death, unless she brings something up and it goes in my brain. I go, oh yeah, I remember you told me about that. Alice said that Mrs. J had commented on their usual phone call that apparently Chad had been pretty upset since the party. Not in a violent way, that feels like that had to be explained because he has been violent in the past. That's just me assuming nothing has been said here. Um, but in the way a toddler pouts about being put in a timeout, I immediately started laughing my butt off about it and shared what had happened that night. Alice was a little upset that Chad had to be coddled into behaving, but was ultimately happy put I put a stop to any antics. Jenny just found it funny in general and asked me if I hire out my services for weddings. Alice also called Mrs. J and put her on speakerphone and said that she had to hear about me saving the night. Mrs. J actually asked me if I wanted payment for it. Okay, that. She was mostly joking, but I could tell she was at least a little bit serious. She said that she'd been really anxious for the first half of the night about Chad doing something insane to ruin the night, and that it serves him right for being an idiot that he'd made other comments about my immigration status before. Apparently, they'd got into a minor argument the morning of. She'd been convinced he would lash out somehow. I guess I not only saved the party, but also made Chad chill for the week. I didn't let her pay me, of course, but Alice and Jenny dropped off a bottle of vintage red today, so I'm happy as a clam. I'm a little concerned that my actions might have made him a little violent, but I don't think Mrs. J would stay if he did, considering she'd already plotted a divorce. That makes me think that maybe he's not been violent in the future, in the past, but also I don't know, that might be something that is classed as being excessively personal, and even if it is an anonymous Reddit post not wanting to put on, um that's just my take from it. Obviously, some relevant comments. Please tell me that your friend found out so that they can grab you a gift basket for having to deal with a father-in-law from hell. OOP, Alice was a little upset that Chad wasn't being nice for the sake of it, and that he did have to be heavily coddled by me, but they did find it funny. No gift baskets were given, but I did get a yummalicious bottle of red for my efforts. Next comment. OP, you are not the arsehole. You are, however, a goddamn legend. You put in some serious labour to make sure your friends had an amazing time at their anniversary party, all whilst making fucking Chad miserable. And most impressive, you kept him from running his mouth, not your mouth. You did the Lord's work, OP. Thanks for all you have done and continue to do. And when/if Chad chads again, please let us know. I do truly enjoy your writing. I just wish it didn't have to come at your friend's expense. I totally agree with that. Like, yeah, this has been an interesting story to read, and there has been some twists and turns, but damn, that girl had to put in a lot of work to have the dad actually act in a decent fucking manner. Like, wild. Wild that one of your friends has to babysit your dad because he can't fucking keep it together because he's that much of a fucking baby. Anyway, the last comment from the poster was, I didn't keep him from running his mouth entirely, but I did manage to put out any fires he was trying to start. A bit like the wedding. It was a long 4 hours, but I am willing to do it again to preserve Alice and Jenny's peace and quiet for the foreseeable future. See, to do that, tell him to get to fuck. I know it's not your relationship, I know you would do that, but like, eh, eh. And I can see why earlier on in the post she said if they have kids that it's probably going to be low no contact. I don't think I would want a grandparent like that around my children because they're going to make them feel like shit. Like they're not worthy. Like their grandparents' feelings are more important than their children. And nah, fuck that shit. The last bit of the comment was, I don't anticipate that Chad will be showing up to any event that I am also at for a good long while, but maybe I'll plan my due diligence at Thanksgiving if Mrs. J or Alice or Jenny host. And then because this is on Best of Reddit updates, I thought I would thought I would scroll down, and the first comment says, this is written like a voiceover on a Y2K drama. The burning down the building where your kids are going to get married is a plot point in the US version of Shameless, so not far off. And then the next comment was, oof, I could not get through more than a couple of paragraphs, which I'm like, I found it pretty easy. So clearly there's people on this that really do not like how this is written. And I feel like it was written in the type of way it was written because it was on Charlotte Dobre's channel, and like it's for content, so of course it's going to be written in a way that is for content. But like a few comments are, I can't stand this sort of narrative where the author thinks his story is the funniest thing in the world. And then the next person, yeah, you've absolutely nailed why I hate this kind of story. It has all the aesthetic hallmarks of the most hilarious story ever, except it's not funny and it makes the author seem very self-important. I can kind of get that. Like at points where I was saying, that's not really your job. Like I get it because you want your friends to have a good time, and also kind of saying about the mum and how she's uninvolved and that kind of stuff that I touched on. That is very hard within family dynamics, and I get that it is not easy to go low contact, no contact, anything like that, but yeah, it is what it is. I hope you have enjoyed this episode of the podcast, and reading through this story and the little story at the start where I talk a bit about neurodivergence. If you have enjoyed this episode, please leave a like, subscribe on YouTube and audio platforms, leave me a comment of what you thought about the stories, what your thoughts are. Send me an email if you've got any juicy stories that you want to share anonymously and have me read them out, because I would be so interested. But yes, that is it today. Look after yourselves and have a lovely week, and hopefully I shall see you soon. Bye!